And alongside the bottom economic transformation agenda, economic recovery is in sight. This is according to Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, who presented the 2024-2025 budget on Thursday. The CS has, however, cautioned on the need to safeguard the said recovery for Kenyans to reap the full benefit. Njuguna, who presented a 3.9 trillion shilling budget, insisted on the need for domestic revenue mobilization to finance the budget, saying that there is no more room for debt. He says the government intends to increase taxes to the rate of 20% of the gross domestic product from the current 15% by 2030. Jimmy Mbogoh with National Treasury's defense of the budget proposals for the coming financial year.
In yet another progressive budget, the National Treasury is set to spend 3.9 trillion shillings to finance the country's expenditure for the financial year 2024-2025. An expenditure that the National Treasury has defended, pegging its decision on the country's recovery. According to the Cabinet Secretary, the country has shown significant economic resilience.
Economic recovery is evident. It is evident on two fronts. First, you can see the economic growth in 2023. And second, we continue to see some vibrancy. But third, that is second, you can see that vibrancy and also economic vibrancy is actually related even to seeing how inflation is behaving in terms of stability and the exchange rate.
This year's budget, especially the one that Minister is going to present, is as a drastic reduction. Given what we had projected in the budget outlook, budget policy statement, what Parliament had approved was much higher. We anticipated 4.2 trillion budget. But we have said that we need to undertake fiscal consolidation. And because our biggest problem is that we don't have fiscal space now to do more programs.
Treasury has also defended the revenue-raising measures proposed in the finance bill, saying the measures are aimed at protecting the recovery that has been registered, as well as ensuring that policies underpin the economic recovery. Despite the public outcry, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u called on Kenyans to look at taxation as a means to grow and not in isolation.
There's a lot of noise around over-taxation, which in my view, it may be valid because it looks like some group of Kenyans are more overtaxed. But generally, when you look at the numbers, it doesn't show that Kenyans are overtaxed. Because I look at the number now, we're talking about, I was looking at it now, it is 15% of GDP. And our desire is to reach 25%. So it really, 15% is quite low.
And everyone resists high taxes. So that's why we call it a trilemma, or a three-dimensional problem. It's one problem in three problems. But we are going to overcome by looking at moderate ways of trying to solve the problem. So the budget today is going to emphasize on the policies that we need to implement, policies, programs, and intervention to implement to support that fragile growth, that fragile economic recovery. We want to make sure that we revive the economy so that it can generate jobs for the youth.
With recurrent expenditures eating close to 70% of the total budget, Treasury notes that there is need to relook at expenses to ensure that the country can withstand unforeseen shocks in order to sustain the growth momentum.
Even in times of crisis, make sure that you do not devour the development spending because you limit capacity for future growth. That logic is still there. That's why we are saying those interventions is to protect the development expenditure. Because once you devour development expenditure, it means that you limit yourself in terms of future capacity for growth. That is why we are talking about interventions, to make sure that we safeguard some of these issues.
According to economic analysts, the proposals in the 2024-2025 budget are quite ambitious. But according to Treasury officials, this ambition is well-founded based on the recovery seen and the projected growth for the coming financial year. Jimmy Mbogoh, Citizen TV, from Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.